Hello everybody, welcome to Percussion Axiom TV. I'm your host Tom Burritt, and this is episode 61. Today's axiom really has to do with some things that I learned this weekend. And so I guess we're going to call it, the future of today's orchestra. And I had a great time playing Michael Jordan's UFO Percussion Concerto. You can see my wonderful alien back there who sat on stage with me for the fourth movement especially. During the concerto, that was a lot of fun. I saw some really interesting things this weekend as I was up in Wichita Falls, Texas, and had a great time up there, great people. One of the first of two issues I want to talk about is the idea of what can orchestras do to bring in the younger crowd. That's one of the big things I noticed, that there really isn't a younger crowd, or at least a contingency of younger audience members. And I'm sure that most of you guys would agree that that's true of most orchestras, especially. I know it's definitely true here in Austin. Of all places, I've always wondered why that they don't, sort of stretch the box a little bit. And I saw a recent article how New York New York and L.A. Are really doing some interesting programming this year, regardless of the issue with the recession and the lack of support, the fear of alienating audiences. And I know those are sort of progressive markets. And Austin actually is a very progressive market as well, as far as younger crowds, and it's a highly artistic community. And I never understood why the Austin Symphony doesn't jump out of the box a bit more. I know why, but anyway, that's not really what we're getting into. But I think it's true of sort of orchestras in general. And so it's really the issue of, especially in these tough times with the deep recession we're in, I think program directors are really worried about alienating and losing audiences by trying new works or contemporary works. And I completely understand that mode of thinking. It makes a lot of sense. But this weekend, when I was up in Wichita Falls, Candler Schaefer, who's the conductor up there, big shout out to him, big ups to him, because he totally stepped out of the box and by inviting me up there to play UFO. And I know they were nervous about it. They were very nervous about it. I could tell. I mean, geez, up there you can just tell the vibe. And the orchestra was great. And Candler was fantastic as far as putting it together, and was really, really excited about it. But you could tell some of the directors of the orchestra were a little concerned about how the audience would take it. It's a very traditional crowd, like you would expect. A lot of older generation there. And there was some strain, like there isn't any orchestra, of fear of lack of support. And I'm sure some of the giving there is maybe dwindling, because these older generations aren't going to be there forever. And so, the real problem I see is there isn't a younger audience. But the review for the concert was fantastic, thank God. It was great. And I really think that the people there, regardless of their age, really connected to the piece and the whole experience. And so I think that's a really good example of, someone jumping out of the box, taking a chance. I had some comments after the concert of some people saying, "Thank you so much for coming to our town. This is," and actually one of the donors to the orchestra was quoted as saying, "This is how we need to do this more. We need to get this sort of thing happening here more, so we can get some younger people here." They really thought that was a way to do that. So I've always thought about this. Do you play dumbed down music, or do you play more accessible music? Or just a more acceptable type of choice, a more conservative choice, to protect the audience that you have? Or do you, and do that really well, or do you stretch the boundaries and do something contemporary, do something sort of more mainstream contemporary or on that edge, to try to build something new and something fresh, and do that really well? I mean, what do you guys think about that? That's sort of going to be the question that I'll get to in a little bit, but if we don't, the bottom line is, though, if we don't develop a younger audience with today's orchestras, then it's just going to, eventually, it's just going to be, there won't be any orchestras. So I think that's a real problem that we have right now. And so I'm just really encouraged in one way that this experience I had this weekend, I think, really is a good example. The right kind of artist with the right kind of piece and the right kind of repertoire, the right orchestra and the right conductor who can kind of put it all together. And I think overall the review is certainly glowing. It was, the reviewer was really enthusiastic about how different the program was, and she kept using the word different over and over. I like different. I like that, you know, there was an alien on the stage. I like that the performer came in a cloak, dressed as an alien. You know, I mean, those things sound cheesy maybe on the front side, but I think, and maybe they are. I mean, that's subjective, I guess, but I think there is some really, really good music in that piece, and the piece is very well constructed. So there is the meat side. So yeah, I think you guys know what I'm getting at. So sorry I'm not articulating that very well, but I think that's one great example of how maybe we could save the orchestra, how we could start building your audiences, doing more things like that. But the key is, of course, the directors and the artistic directors are willing to actually do that. So big ups to Candler Schaefer for doing that. So let's see. There was one more other thing that I wanted to mention, to talk about in today's episode. And that's really the issue of the stigma of being a soloist and a guest artist with an orchestra. You know, I've seen it with my own eyes. You know, I've seen how difficult some of these solos can be, and how finicky and how particular. And it's the whole diva thing, and we get that, right? But you know, I think that just needs to go away. You know, I got to know some of the stagehands who were there to help, and one guy in particular, his name was Jerry, was just the greatest guy. And he and I had a great time talking together. I was really thankful that I went on my way just to treat him like anybody else. And you know, I think that's something that really needs to change in our art. You know, it's about people. It's about building relationships. If you want to keep doing this thing, you know, you want to get asked back. You want to have a good experience with everybody there, including the audience members, if you can, and the people in the front office, and the orchestra members, and even the stagehands. You know, I just think, you know, the connection that I shared with those guys was really, really fun. It was something totally blew me away. And, you know, he was really appreciative that I took the time to kind of hang and talk with him and just, you know, being a regular guy. He made a big deal about how he's worked with a lot of people that were just real jerks to them. And so, you know, and to me, it's just, you know, I'm so lucky to be able to do this sort of thing. And I would hope that wouldn't change if you know, this really takes off and I start doing this a lot more. But hopefully it ever does. And you guys need to tell me if I ever get like that, because I don't want that to happen. The bottom line is, it's disrespectful when you feel like you are entitled to anything when you play music. It's way bigger than you, and if you're not understanding that, then you're just missing the whole thing. So I've seen it many, many times in the business here, where people are clearly putting themselves way ahead of anything else and don't have the bigger picture in mind, and really just don't care anything about a team effort and putting this whole thing together as a communal effort. So anyway, people really respond to that, and that's one thing I learned this weekend that I wanted to share with you guys. So anyway, that's it for today's show. So two things. I guess really the main question is the first point we were talking about, the earlier part of the show, is, you know, how do we build younger audiences with orchestras? I mean, I want to know if this is happening somewhere in the country that I'm not aware of. Okay, I want to know how it's happening. I want to know how someone is putting together and investing into a younger audience for the classical orchestra concerts. I'd love to hear that. I love polling you guys and hearing what's going on. I'd love to get kind of a lay of the landscape of what's happening out there. So that's the first thing. So if you know the situation, that's the question of the episode. If you know the situation like that, that's really flourishing, that's really doing some great things, I want to know about it. I want to hear about it. And then second thing is, second part of that question is, you know, what can we do? You know, I mean, I'm trying to do everything I can. You know, making a good experience when I go places, trying to be the best person I can be, easiest to work with. Yeah. So, but what else? There's lots of other things we can do. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on that. Thank you so much for the great comments that I've been getting in episodes. It's amazing. Sorry about the vacuum outside. Yeah, that's all I have for today. So thank you guys so much. And we got lots of stuff around the corner coming up here that we'll be talking about, including the UT Percussion Group concert Tuesday night the 23rd, which is just tomorrow now. So some of you may not see that, but we will be live streaming that. I'll try to tweet out a live link to that. Sorry about the vacuum cleaner. So anyway, we don't edit the show, so that's just what happens. So thank you guys so much. It'll be take care.